And I've said that a million times. Like, the mobile devices are so great at this point. There's no reason that I can't be on here right now checking, an auction house or
Yes.
the stock or anything,
anything.
and communicating. There's a lot of stuff you could do, like, while you're at the mall or anything.
Well,
and that's the hobbyist mentality, right? I keep bringing that up about the hobbyist mentality of MMOs, and that's the big difference between MMO players, I think, and console players, is that when we get into an online universe like this, it almost becomes a part of our life.
Absolutely.
And we want to take it everywhere.
Yes.
I want to be able to pick up my phone and call my corporation in game right now and talk to them and say, hey, what's going on? Are we all okay? Are you guys,
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, this is exactly what we're trying to do with breaking down those barriers further, is that, imagine this case is that you're in game and totally transparently you want to talk to this guy. You have some problem that you're doing in game and you just initiate communication. It shouldn't really matter where the guy is. He will get a phone call, or if you're on Facebook, he will just get the voice.
He should just get it. It should just find him. It should find him.
Or
wherever,
vice versa.
right.
I'm on Facebook, I want to talk to this guy. Doesn't really matter where he is.
As long as he's connected.
We will route you from Facebook to his phone if he's on the phone, but if he's in me, we'll just go up there. So it
text messaging, SMS, like
everything.
some way. There's a gateway to every single person at any time, any given moment, and that's really exciting. And MMOs are. I think the players are waiting for this more than anyone because it's such a social atmosphere.
It is,
and that's what we do. So, and as MMO players, and CCP is such a good company for this because you guys put out novels and fiction and models, and we're talking about giving away the models and that kind of thing. It's like that's that hobbyist mentality of just encompassing everything.
It's the EVE universe. We don't really. In our minds, there is no limitations to where it should be.
Because it is a universe. It's just like what we're doing right now. We're
Yes.
speaking to each other for real, where there's no difference, even though it's a virtual thing. It's the same thing. No, it's a great way to look at it. How did that work? Like, well, let me ask you this, because we're talking about communication and social stuff. We might as well talk about Vivox a little bit, because Vivox powers the voice in EVE Online.
Yes.
How did you see, let me ask you, how did you see a difference in gameplay? I'm sure you guys watched it really closely once it was implemented. What did you see change? Did you see?
Well, I mean, the fundamental thing is that what we wanted to achieve when we asked ourselves, okay, let's do voice, and of course, I mean, voice is not our core competency, so we looked for partners and we went through all the partners, and basically the requirements that we set and what we wanted to achieve is that this would be a totally integrated, transparent experience. So we started really integrating voice into more and more tools. I mean, we have fleet operations with thousands of people going on, right? And for example, fleet battles with hundreds of people going on. So we integrated voice into the fleet management system, so you can actually manage different squads and have voice going in between there. So what basically is happening is that we saw a drastic uptake, for example, usage when we started simply integrating them more transparently. For example, in the fleet command versus just providing voice and just being able to double click and talk to each other. So I mean, the more that you think of a unified experience of what you're doing. Now we simply think of voice being a natural part of that. So it's growing every day. It's amazing.
I'm sure. And in EVE again, more for voice and how it was set up was first of all, when I first tried it, it was like instant. It was like so easy to figure out. It was like got in there, click, oh, here it is.
Yeah.
And then when you could set up like you're talking about, for people who don't understand EVE, like he's talking about. EVE Online is a very PvP-centric MMO. There's a lot of nastiness going on in EVE Online, and these corporations have hundreds and hundreds of players sometimes, and sometimes their fleet battles have hundreds of players. And for you to coordinate all these squads and wings of people, you know, in a normal chat room or a normal Ventrilo or something.
No time to type, man.
No time to type. It's too fast of a game. It's too much. And if you had to try and break all this off into separate rooms and stuff for yourself, it's too much time. It's too hard to consume. So what they did was they've integrated in a way that like you could break off like fleet commanders and just have their wingmen and this, and like they could only talk to their two people. But then people who are really in charge of the corporation can then talk to their leaders, and it kind of trickles down. It's a really like seamless effect. And have you seen that change, like because you do FanFest, and that's like it's such a big thing for you guys. Has that changed a lot with bringing people like together? Because I feel like voice, as we were talking about this earlier, is that I think voice has changed. Because when I started MMOs, it was all text. Yeah. EverQuest was like, hey, you know, and well, it's such.
But even to the point that people were like, you can't bring voice. That will just totally segregate the player base.
Right.
It's like, no, it's transparent. Everybody can use it.
Yeah, but I was one of those people at first. At first, when it came into, I was a little bit apprehensive about it because it kind of changed, especially if you role play, it kind of changed things a little bit. Because if you're a role player and you texted, it was like you had this barrier between you and voice, and you didn't want to like, you know, yar and didn't want to get on voice and start, just talking in old English and stuff.
Exactly.
But when I finally broke down and like got into it and did it, what I found was that all of a sudden, like, you've created these friendships instantly.
Yes.
Instantly.
Yes.
As soon as I talk to you and we're real voice, you're now a real human being.
Yeah.
Let's play tomorrow.
Yeah.
That was awesome. That was a lot of fun.
And even what works in Eve's favor is that it's a futuristic sci-fi game. You don't have to sound like somebody else, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I mean, I remember one guy that was flying with a lot. He had some problem with his microphone, but that just made it more charming. He was like a radio chatterbot.
It was
like
crackling and kind of get robotic.
But yeah, I mean, it totally did. I mean, the thing is that of course, first when you were meeting people which you talk to, like just through text or like on messenger boards or whatever, I mean, you're just basically reading your column of text, and you can't really find emotional kind of things through that. But what we saw is that when the corporations started meeting, is that it was a more natural thing of meeting because you had been talking to each other, you had been seeing pictures, so the barrier was almost like instantaneously gone. It was like, and of course, copious amounts of drinks and stuff like that.
Exactly. It's like, let's drink. Now we're real friends. So Dust, Eve, the other big news I know you guys got coming out is we've been seeing it forever is walking in stations, and
Yes.
I know we're really close now. So
Getting closer.
we're getting closer and closer.
Yeah.
We still don't have a date yet. I'm not going that far.
No. No, I think that what it really boils down to is that we have to reach a point that we're happy with, and we also have to reach a point where we're happy with what's actually happening in Eve itself. I mean, we're always like being agile and trying to react to actually what's happening in game, which game system do we have to address, and of course, I mean that means we're shifting priorities between maintenance and improvements and actually doing new stuff.
What can you tell me about walking in stations besides? I mean, when we first saw it, I know the info that we got was pretty much just walking in stations, and then you released some more information about like things that you might be able to do in these stations. Tell us a little bit about what you can do in these stations.
I mean,
what are they used for?
I mean, the things that we really go back and forth. I mean, we've gone through so many iterations of what we want to have in there and been prototyping it out and stuff like that. I mean, at one point in time, it's mainly like running establishments and kind of like providing a social atmosphere. Then we went over to like
stores, vendors, that kind of thing.
Exactly, and then we of course we went into a lot of mini games, so you can play with each other and but also like play with players in space or even on a website or whatever. We've got into having combat, not having combat. We've gone in lots of circles. Gambling even. Gambling sounds awesome.
That sounds very good to me.
We should have gambling.
Monday night gambling at
Absolutely.
At my POS.
Yeah.
It's the Gannon Villa. We'll meet up.